What happens when one of Hollywood's most powerful and private stars sits down with one of television's most notoriously opinionated hosts? The stage was set for a clash of titans, a collision of two utterly different worlds. What you're about to read is the explosive exchange that erupted when Tom Cruise, the last of the old-school movie gods, walked onto the set of The View and found himself in the crosshairs of Joy Behar. It was a conversation that would have viewers gripping their armrests, and it all boiled down to one question: who was really out of line? It was a promotional coup for The View. Tom Cruise was on the circuit for his latest blockbuster, a death-defying, action-packed spectacle that had required years of his signature, all in dedication. His publicist, wary of the unpredictable nature of daytime talk, had secured strict agreements. The focus was to be on the film's groundbreaking stunts, the global locations, and the message of hope and resilience at its core. The word Scientology was not to be mentioned. From the moment Cruise walked onto the stage, the energy was electric. He moved with the kinetic, purposeful energy that was his trademark, flashing his billion-watt smile to the cheering audience, shaking the hands of each co-host with a firm, focused intensity. He greeted Whoopi Goldberg with a warm familiarity, exchanged pleasantries with Sunny Hostin, and acknowledged the others. But when he reached Joy Behar, the air shifted. Her smile was tight, her eyes sharp and analytical behind her glasses. It was the look of a predator that had just identified its quarry. The interview began smoothly enough. Whoopi, as moderator, guided the conversation toward the film. Cruise, a master of the promotional interview, was in his element. He spoke passionately about learning to fly a helicopter for a specific sequence, about the importance of practical effects, about the dedication of the crew. He was engaging, charismatic, and utterly controlled. For the first 10 minutes it was a masterclass in Hollywood publicity. Then, Whoopi turned to the panel for their questions. Joy Behar leaned into her microphone, a stack of notes before her that everyone knew she didn't need. "Tom, it's wonderful to have you here," she began, her tone laced with a sweetness that didn't reach her eyes. "The film is, of course, incredible. The things you do with your body are just astonishing." "Thank you, Joy," Cruise said, his smile unwavering. "It's all about telling the best story for the audience." "Of course," she continued, waving a dismissive hand. "But I have to ask, watching you hang off the side of that airplane, it got me thinking. This level of commitment, it's almost superhuman. It makes me wonder about the philosophy that drives you. What is the source of this absolute certainty? This fearlessness? Is it something you're born with, or is it something you found?" The studio, which had been buzzing with pleasant energy, went quiet. The subtext was as subtle as a sledgehammer. Cruise's publicist, standing just off camera, visibly stiffened. Cruise's smile remained, but it became a few degrees cooler. "Well, Joy, I think it's about passion. It's about loving what you do and wanting to give audiences the most authentic experience possible. When you're focused on a goal, when you're dedicated to your team, you find the strength to push through the fear." Behar nodded slowly, as if he'd just confirmed a deeply held suspicion. "Passion, dedication, strong words, but they're abstract. I'm talking about the bedrock. For instance, many people find that kind of bedrock in their faith." "Is it faith that drives you, Tom?" The temperature on the stage seemed to drop 10 degrees. Sunny Hostin shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Whoopi Goldberg leaned forward, preparing to intervene. Cruise, however, held his ground. He looked directly at Behar, his gaze intense and unblinking. "I believe in believing in yourself. I believe in the potential of every individual. And I believe in making movies that inspire people. That's the faith I'm here to talk about today." It was a flawless deflection, a diplomatic masterpiece, but Joy Behar was not one to be deflected. "Inspiration is wonderful," she said, her voice taking on a conversational, almost gossipy tone that was her signature weapon. "But let's be specific. Your particular belief system, the Church of Scientology, it teaches that humans have unlimited potential, doesn't it? That we're all essentially immortal beings called thetans. Is that the well you draw from when you're dangling from a cliff face? The idea that you're an immortal being and therefore, what, impervious to harm?" The forbidden word was out. It hung in the air, sucking the oxygen from the room. The audience murmured, a mix of shock and titillation. Cruise's publicist made a slicing motion across her throat from the sidelines. Cruise's famous smile finally vanished. It didn't collapse, it was deliberately switched off. His face became a calm, impenetrable mask. "Joy," he said, his voice low and even. "I'm here today to talk about the power of cinema, about entertaining people. My personal beliefs are just that, personal, but that's just it, Tom." Behar pressed, her hands splayed on the table. "In your case, they don't seem to be personal, they seem to be professional. They seem to be the very engine of your career. There are reports, books, documentaries that suggest your church is deeply involved in your life and work. When the public sees Tom Cruise, they see the actor and the Scientologist. You can't really separate the two, can you?" "With all due respect, I can, and I do," Cruise replied, his tone hardening. "I'm an artist. What I bring to the screen is my work. What I do in my private life is my business. I don't ask you about your personal beliefs on this show." "Ah, but I'm not the one jumping off buildings, Tom," Behar retorted with a sharp laugh. "My beliefs don't inform my professional risks in a way that fascinates and, frankly, confuses a lot of people. People look at you and they wonder, is this a man of profound faith, or is he a fanatic?" The gasp from the audience was audible this time. Whoopi finally interjected. Joy, let's maybe pull it back. But Cruise held up a hand, his eyes locked on Behar. No, Whoopi. It's all right. He turned his full attention back to his interrogator. Did you just call me a fanatic, Joy? I said that's what people wonder. She clarified, though her expression showed no remorse. The level of commitment is so intense, so absolute. It reminds people of other kinds of absolute devotion. The kind that can be unsettling. The mask on Cruise's face was beginning to crack. Not with anger, but with a profound, icy disdain. Unsettling, he repeated. You find dedication unsettling. You find someone believing in something bigger than themselves to be confusing. What I find confusing, Joy, is this culture of cynicism that insists on pathologizing passion. That looks at someone who gives 100% and says, there must be something wrong with him. I'm not pathologizing anything. Behar shot back, her voice rising. I'm asking a simple question about the source of your drive, and you're refusing to answer it. You're hiding behind this wall of privacy while your affiliation is a matter of public record and intense public interest. That seems a little disingenuous. The air crackled with hostility. The other hosts looked like passengers on a plane experiencing severe turbulence, silently praying for it to end. Disingenuous? Cruise's voice was dangerously quiet. You are sitting here, on a television show designed for entertainment, attempting to psychoanalyze me based on gossip and books written by bitter, expelled individuals. You are reducing my life's work, the hard work of hundreds of people on this film, to a cheap pop psychology talking point, and you have the audacity to call me disingenuous. I'm reducing nothing, Behar fired back, leaning so far forward she was almost out of her chair. I'm connecting the dots. The Church of Scientology has a very clear doctrine. It has clear rules. It has been accused of very serious things. And you, Tom Cruise, are its most famous member. To pretend that isn't relevant to a discussion about your superhuman drive is to ignore the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room, Cruise said, his voice rising for the first time, is your blatant disrespect and bigotry. You would never sit here and grill a Catholic or a Jew or a Muslim about their faith in this way. You would never dare to call their devotion fanatical or unsettling, because you know it's offensive. But for some reason, when it comes to what I believe, the rules of decency don't apply. That, Joy, is what's unsettling. The accusation of bigotry landed like a bomb. The audience was dead silent. Behar's face flushed. Bigotry. That's a cheap shot, Tom, and you know it, she sputtered. This isn't about bigotry. This is about transparency. You represent an organization that many consider to be a dangerous cult. Don't you have a responsibility to address that? Who are you? Cruise's voice thundered, cutting her off. To decide what is a cult and what is a religion. Who are you to demand that I justify my spiritual path to you? You are a comedian, a talk show host. You are not a theologian. You are not a judge. And you are certainly not my confessor. The power dynamic had completely flipped. The controlled movie star was gone, replaced by a man radiating raw, indignant power. He was no longer defending, he was attacking. I am a journalist asking a question, Behar insisted, though her voice had lost some of its bluster. No, Cruise corrected her, his finger pointing deliberately at the table. A journalist asks questions to elicit information. You are making statements to provoke a reaction. You are performing. And you are doing it at the expense of the truth and at the expense of basic human respect. He looked away from her, as if he could no longer bear the sight, and addressed the audience and the other hosts directly. This is what's wrong, this cynicism, this need to tear down, to ridicule, to reduce. I make movies about heroes, about people overcoming impossible odds. I make movies that are about hope, and you, he said, turning his gaze back to Behar, a look of pure contempt in his eyes, you traffic in despair. You sit in that chair week after week and you mock and you sneer and you call it commentary? Well, I have news for you, Joy. There is a whole world out there that is hungry for something more. They are hungry for something to believe in, and I will never ever apologize for trying to give that to them. He began to stand up, unclipping his microphone. Tom, wait, Whoopi said, her voice heavy with exhaustion. Let's just take a breath. There's nothing left to say, Cruise said, his voice calm again, but final. He placed his microphone on the table with a soft, definitive click. Behar, seeing her victory slipping away, made one last, desperate lunge. So that's it, you're just gonna walk off? You can't handle a little tough questioning about the things you claim to believe so strongly. Cruise stopped and turned. He looked at her not with anger anymore, but with a profound, almost pitying clarity. No, Joy, he said, his voice clear and resonant in the silent studio. I can handle tough questions. What I won't tolerate is disrespect disguised as journalism. What I won't do is participate in the cheapening of every meaningful conversation into a gotcha moment for ratings. You didn't want to understand me today. You wanted to bait me. And you succeeded. I hope you're proud of the show you produced. He then looked into the main camera, his face once again the face of the global superstar, composed and purposeful. To the audience, I am sorry our time was cut short. I hope you enjoy the film. It was made for you, with all of our passion and all of our heart. Thank you for your support. And with that, Tom Cruise turned and walked off the set, leaving a stunned silence in his wake. Joy Behar sat back in her chair, a strange, triumphant yet hollow look on her face. She had gotten the explosion she wanted, but in doing so, She had been revealed not as a brave truth-teller, but as a provocateur who had profoundly misjudged her target. Tom Cruise had lost the battle of the soundbite, but in walking out he had won the war of perception, framing the conflict not as a star avoiding questions, but as a man refusing to be a punching bag for cynical entertainment. So, there you have it. The complete, explosive confrontation between Joy Behar and Tom Cruise. What do you think? Was Cruise right to defend his privacy and walk away, or did he have a responsibility to answer the tough questions? Was Behar doing her job as a journalist, or was she crossing a line into bigotry and sensationalism? The lines are blurred, the answers are divisive, and the conversation is far from over. Because in the world of live television, the most dramatic stories are the ones where no one is following a script,